Hey everybody, Hugh here. Welcome back. Well, we're the 20 something of February and you can see the staging area in the courtyard after some epic reshuffling again by Judith and I is looking rather well indeed. You can see there's lots going on, lots of colour. It definitely feels like spring and earlier in the week and last weekend we had some very spring-like days which were fantastic, but the weather has turned back colder again and nighttime temperatures were back down to freezing and some frosts and that sort of thing. However, plants tucked into a wee pocket like this, they really don't feel the worst of the weather and they're coming along very nicely indeed. So for this particular episode, let's take a look at the courtyard, a wee bit of an update. We'll take a look at the pot ponds that we redid, also what's in flower, and maybe we'll pop outside the courtyard, take a look at the area that we looked at a few weeks back where plants were going to be moved on as the saying is, and see what that looks like now, again after some tidying up and some decisions being made. But first of all, let's get into a little bit of detail about the courtyard itself. It is a north-facing courtyard, as previous watchers would know. We are still waiting for the sun to come around to be able to hit the area and begin to dry it out, because you can see things are quite damp, and such is life in a north-facing space at this time of year. I always say between Valentine's Day and Patrick's Day is that sort of hope for us with the sun coming around, and sure enough, Judith on a sunny occasion said she saw a little bit of sun hit the pond area. So but really for me it's Patrick's Day does mark, it's about 3 weeks away, does mark where we get a proper bit of sunshine for some hours, which the plants and the general area responds to very well. So you can see the pots of Tate, and I think it's Jetfire, those oranger ones, are very much in flower. Now these are pots that we had purchased last year, or maybe the year before, and had pot on. And once the plants themselves, the daffodils and narcissi and the muscari there in blue, are finished flowering, give them liquid feeds about once a month while they're still in green growth, and that will help the plants then build up the bulbs for the following years. So very much tomato feed or any sort of flower based feed that you have on them, that you have available. The liquid feeds I find work very well for us. The composts themselves, as always, if you watch the channel regularly you know, are pretty much soil based compost, with a little bit of ordinary or our recycled compost going in, and of course plenty of manure. 1/3 typically bagged bought manure, but where we can get our hands on some, and you know, in January some of our friends gave us some bags where we can get manure that's been from the local area. That's a gift. Now these were such a surprise. They were such a surprise. These are irises. They have been put into a pot last autumn year, and I only ever expect really to get a bit of flowering out of them in 1 year, but you can see they've actually come back. So that liquid feeding does respond well, and when they're finished I'll actually top up. See the way the compost has fallen down, and that's okay in pots like this where because there's quite a lot of organic material in the compost that we use via the manure and so on, you will get that levels of the pot going down, and that's okay because it does allow for a top up of some nice rich top dressing as well once they're finished. So liquid feeding is the primary way to get them back into flower, and then maybe a bit of a top dress. Oh, actually let me show you a bit of damage that happened here. Look, one of the irises was chewed. Can you see it? So we were looking going, what's that? Is it some sort of rodent? Is it a slug or a snail? And it was like death to whatever is attacking the flowers, until we found, I don't know if I can see it there, no I can't see it, until we found a little caterpillar, and the two of us were like, oh that's so cute, oh look at the caterpillar, oh put it back in, let it feed and become a butterfly. Fly away my pretties, fly away. So I thought that was quite a contrast, and maybe we're doing the slugs and snails just a bit of a disservice. You can also see some of Judith's and my recycle craft there, but some of Judith's crafts. Very much nice to have that bit of interest, isn't it, at this time of year with the flowers. It works very, very well. It really does. Just those extra pieces that catch the eye. During the summer they're not as noticeable because obviously the flowers and the foliage and the forms do the talking themselves. But this time of year it's lovely to have those extra pieces of interest. One of the Hebes, now this is a coldish area where we do get very cold. Like it was -3 around here, and the Hebes yet remain reasonably unaffected because they're so sheltered in the courtyard area. Because I'd say if they were in the gardens they wouldn't last. It's another one of my crafts from a few years ago, and rusting away there very nicely. Recycled metal, and a bit of inspiration from what Dad does with his copper stuff, and yeah, it's taken on a nice sort of russet look to it. We still have, my brother's watching, we still have plenty of irises in there, and maybe they'll build up a bit of water. And coming around to the pot pond area, you can see a little bit of movement on what is a pretty grey day there. So it's a solar pump and it's sort of tipping away. And the reason I put that back in is because there's still a lot of silt hanging around, which isn't great, to be honest, for the fish. So really I hope that it'll pull some of that silt to the bottom. Not that I necessarily want to block up the pump, but yeah, and it's just a nice bit of movement, isn't it? You can see the weeping willow full of catkins beside it, and some nice grasses and bulbs, just giving it just a nice look to this time of year. There was an acer there that has been moved into the tunnel. We'll probably do a little bit on what's going on in the grow houses next week, but just to capture this, the 23rd, 24th of February, and this area here, we've moved some of the herbaceous plants that would typically be here. We've moved some of those into the tunnel, which I'll show you as I say. They're coming on. And across by the garden gate, the hookers who were walking around the the garden centre there a few days ago, and they had lovely hookers there, and Jude was like, we're not getting any more hookers. Sick of them. Because, and this was one that was bought, this is the Purple Palace. It was bought by us quite late in the season. There's one of the neighbours' cars in the background, and you can still see plenty of chewing going on with the vine weevil. See if you can see them there, and see where my thumb is. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, there we go. They're great. They're lovely big fat vine weevil that Mr. Robin will certainly enjoy. So once we're finished with this vid, I will go through those pots, because we have a bit of compost made up from some potting on. Knock off those vine weevils, scatter the soil across the grass, because Mr. Robin and friends will love that, and maybe do a quick bit of repotting as well. So any hookers we have, they just are magnets for vine weevil. It's like strawberry plants and other plants, they still have those the lovely fleshy roots. And this is the sort of the most shadiest part. Don's Le Jardin. That's the heather. I may have mentioned that had a lot of brown in it, but we've popped it in there. You can see lovely fresh green growth coming through now. There's the rhubarb pieces we took this time last year from the potager and potted them on. But lovely fresh green growth, and a lot of the vestiges of autumn have been removed. You know, a lot of the dead growth. Not everything, I can still see a few bits, but most of it is gone to give that lovely fresh look. And credit to Judith, who does the sweeping of the courtyard area. So give full credit where that is due, because the place just adds that extra bit of neatness to the whole effect, doesn't it? Really does. I'm very pleased with it now. Very, very pleased with it. Let's take a look outside just to see those plants. And thanks for all your comments about the plants and should they stay or should they go. And that was 3 or 4 weeks ago. We'll come to that area, but first Isn't that lovely? One of the camellias. This was one that was fairly badly affected. So it was cut back and has been fed and has responded very nicely to that. Of course, frost does a lot of damage to those buds, so the very fact that they're tucked in neatly and they don't get sun on the frosted buds does mean that we get a little bit more out of them. I was tidying up this pot earlier. It is a clematis, summer flowering, and it also has some crocosmia in the pots, but sure didn't I cut one of the stems of the clematis there as well. It's like, oh! But anyway, they do shoot from the base. We just have to be careful about slugs and snails. It's a lovely blue one. I think it's called Blue Angel. So this is the area here that had all those pots. So some of them have been given a reprieve. They haven't been moved on. They've grown back very nice, and it's like, oh, they look very nice, and there's flower buds on them. We're saying these pots are actually exhausted and there's no more colour, but there's actually plenty of flower buds in some of them, so they definitely get a reprieve. Other ones we have repotted and moved into the tunnel that they'll come on, and other ones they're just thrown out. There's nothing to them, so it's like actually they just need to be gone. So nothing amazing, but just to show that area where it did have a lot of the dead plants. It's just like nicely tidied. Nice to capture it. Anyhow. Thanks as always for watching. Remember to like and subscribe. Do give those thumbs up if you can. It helps the old algorithms. It's the only rhythm I'm good at, I can tell you. So do give a thumbs up, and of course comments are welcome below. Take care, have a good week there, and see you on the next one. Bye for now.